when I get back to Accra, I will make sure that that happens. But the wealth of insight and knowledge and wisdom that Kwabena has, I believe, is something that we need to have this conversation, even if it's in on a virtual setting or in person. So again, Kwabena, who is an author, an entrepreneur, an engineer, highly educated man, is here with us tonight. How you doing, Kwabena?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Jay.
All right.
Nice talking to you again.
Likewise, because you already know we're getting ready to go dive into this into a couple of topics, but I think that when I started this channel on this platform, I wanted to make sure that we didn't have content that was just surface. So there are a lot of things when I go to different countries, I have a great time. I'll do, the entertainment, fun stuff. But then I recognize that if I don't talk about the topics that will really enrich someone from a knowledge perspective or a philosophical perspective or historical perspective, we could go on and on and on, then I'm doing a disservice. And I'm also being disingenuous to myself. And so when we had our conversation last time, you hit on so many things that were not just relevant for Ghanaians, but also anyone who is listening and just appreciates good insight and knowledge. So today, I wanted to ask you a few questions about two topics and that I've heard, and people have asked me to address the topics, but because I'm not Ghanaian and I'm not really familiar as someone on the ground would be, I felt that it would be best to talk to someone, to an actual person, a Ghanaian who's familiar with it or who at least heard about it, and then we can go from there. So I've heard a lot about this fix the country movement, and I guess it's obviously it's a hot button issue, and where some people who if they are too outspoken about it, then they try to shut them down and all of this. But what is the fix the country movement all about?
Jay, thank you for this connection again. And you're doing great work. I watch your videos. I'm learning a lot. As a matter of fact, the last one, the one on but you talk about Barbados. And,
oh yeah, oh okay.
That was very insightful. And
the Commonwealth. Oh yeah,
because those are the fundamentals. And I think if you're an African, if you're a Black person around the world, if you don't understand some of these things, I don't know what else you can understand when it comes to Africa. And so fix the country. I've watched a lot of them. Some of them are media people. And I think that if when you are born in Africa, the global power structure is something that you are constructively taught. So you separate your country from the rest of the world, and you say that the usual thing is, Ghana and Singapore had independence around the same time, and
why Ghana and Singapore? Hold on, you threw a name in there I hadn't heard. You said yes, Ghana and Singapore?
Yes, I've heard, maybe not the independence, but they say that we had the same kind of structure, the same kind of economy. What is his name? Lee Kuan came to Ghana. He talked to Kwame Nkrumah. They even cite South Korea also. And I've heard a lot of educated people make this kind of argument, and they seem superficially as okay. But then beneath it is, I think, is different. And it's very difficult for anybody to get through the mind of the average Ghanaian, the average African on such issues. Because we pick some of these issues and our first target is leadership, and then we go straight to corruption. And that is the narrative of the World Bank and IMF. This is what they have pushed for these years. And so the ordinary Ghanaian who has not studied this structurally will agree with them automatically that, it's leadership. And that is where fix the country is coming from, that all our problems are because we have bad leadership, and that our leaders can't think they can solve problems. They are corrupt. They think of themselves alone. That makes sense to a lot of people. But if you study it, I don't think more than 10% of them can be attributed to leadership, just mere leadership, African leadership. Because if that were the case, then maybe Kwame Nkrumah did well. But Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. And who overthrew him?
Who overthrew him? That's
right. That's the question that we should ask. And when he was overthrown, the next day, World Bank was here trying to sign all kind of contracts with the people who overthrew him. So that's side. But when you argue, people will say that is an excuse that you're giving, and you are trying to play a victim's setting. You are trying to make yourself a victim, take responsibility for the whole trouble, and be a man and solve it. That sounds, that's the argument that a lot of people will come up with. But I say that if you take a gun or a cutlass, you cut somebody, you cut everywhere the person is bleeding, and you tie his legs and his hands, and then you say that, why can't you run and walk? That's for me, that's what it means, because there are so many things.
I was just going to say, I don't think a lot of people realize that the United States were the ones who funded the coup that overthrew Kwame Nkrumah.
Yep. Most people would say, it really does not matter. They had to connect with somebody here, and somebody was from within, and that's why they were able to get him. Listen, they never went away. Africa and all that is happening, the people never gave up on power, and they never gave up on wealth. And this is a wealth for them. So they could not just let it go, as we assume.
So how does someone who is under the mindset that the problems are the leadership and the corruption? I mean, because we hear the same thing in America. Same thing. Yes. I'm actually getting ready to do an interview with someone who was deep into politics here in Washington, D.C. And I asked the question. I said, now, you have all these black cities run by black city council, black mayors, black school boards, black police chiefs, black everything. I said, but everything stays the same. And I said, the narrative then comes around. There's corruption, there's crime, there's sickness in these particular areas. So it seems like it is a broader global system that seems to work well within certain environments. But we're talking about Ghana and fix the country. So you'll have people who will push back and say, well, regardless, there's someone on the inside. But who votes these corrupt politicians in? If they're corrupt, who does that?
Is the people. Is the people who vote these people. But you see, even the democracy itself, the man must fund the campaign. The elections are not free. Now, if you say that this is a poor country, and you need billions of Ghana cedis every 4 years to give all these political positions to these career politicians, I mean, don't you think that the structure itself is such that you can't be so much clean, to keep power? Because what do they do to generate that kind of money to fund their campaigns?
That's a good question.
Somebody must give them money, and you opted for this. So what they call democracy, every 4 years, billions are spent just to keep somebody in power, and he comes virtually just to do the same thing that the other guy did, maybe a little different, but that's the system that you have adopted. And I think that this system, if you adopt it as it is, then you cannot complain of so-called corruption, because everywhere that they practice this thing, you can tell me that the people there are clean. It's just everywhere.
I've made a statement, and I made this statement in reference to America, and it ruffles some people's feathers. But I'm the type, I just say whatever it is. I'm at the age now where it's like, but I said in America, you do not rise to the top of a corrupt system unless you're corrupt.
Yeah.
But people have a savior complex with certain politicians here in America, and they don't believe that. No, but they tried and they this and they that. And I'm saying the system has been the same since its inception. The system has not modified its original intention. It modified maybe some of the application of what it did, but the core principles of what the American
designed to do.
Right.
Yes,
And
it's
so
designed.
you're not going to get to the top of it and change it because then now it would have to the system is designed to protect itself.
That's right.
And so when they killed Kennedy, that's
Mhm.
when I was like, now they killed one of their own, you know. So they took out Kennedy. I was like, I said, now that's interesting
Mm.
that they would take out Kennedy. But
Yeah.
the pattern, just the point is that the Ghanaian political system nearly mirrors the American political system every 4 years, two-party system,
Yeah.
name, president, vice president, maybe some slight modifications here and there. And I guess I'm sure it has some UK similarities as
Mm.
well, but to your point, because I've heard that was it well the leaders are corrupt and we need to get the leaders and the leaders and the leaders. But then I guess how do you change that? How do you get leaders in that are not corrupt to fix the problem? I guess that's the question.
How do you get that? I think that you have to deny democracy, and you
Uh,
have to design something, maybe a mix. I don't think they can throw away democracy as we have it. But then the Ghanaian youth, those the fix the country people, must understand that there is no system anywhere that is absolutely free from corruption. There is something that our politicians can do and can do better. That side, I agree with them.
mhm.
There are some few things that they can say that our people don't deserve this. Let's see how we can make some of these things very easy for them. For instance, we inherited a lot of colonial structures and institutions, and they virtually run, I mean, not so much deviated from the original intention. And the original intention was not for the citizens to create wealth for themselves and become powerful. So even if you come to trading and business, the structures that we have had all this period don't help so much. The politicians can do something, I think, about it. Buying a lot of cars, Land Cruisers, I think you can look and say that maybe we don't need a lot of these cars. Maybe we have to focus on making better roads and building better schools, because that's the essence of leadership anyway. But then how do they get to that level of thinking, that level of selflessness? We have to get into what trained them, what brought them up. Because the thing is, it's not just the institutions that operating, or the institutions that supervise them, because they are supervised anyway, but the settings, because you have to have
You said,
some
hold on. You
level
said
of
that
strength.
real. You drop things in there real quick, and if somebody isn't listening to you, it'll slide by them. But you said something real quick. You said they're being supervised. Somebody's
Yes,
supervising them, and
yes.
and some people don't believe that though. But go ahead, go ahead.
Nobody is supervised. They're supervised. Look at the UN. Look at the IMF. Look at
Yeah,
America. Look at all these embassies here. What do they do? Why are they
yeah.
here? Are they here just to give visas? No. I mean, when they are reading our budget in our parliament, you see a lot of these embassies there with suit and tie. Most of them Europeans, Americans. Why are they there? What do they want to
Supervising.
see? So it's obvious. But then the young minds will say that no, it's not like that. I think it's like that. But there are some things that they can do, no matter what, no matter who is pressing them. And I think sometimes, or a lot of the times, they overlook that. And that can get the young ones very angry. And I think they can do something about it, actually.
If nothing changes, because that my concern is that the way the system is built is that it is built not to change. It is
Okay.
built to stay the same.
Mm.
And it is built to, and it's a multi-layered system because you talked about, I'll tell you a comment that someone, I can't say, I'm not at liberty to say who told me this, but I asked someone who's very prominent. Um, I said, why are there so many coups? Why do we see so many coups in different parts of the world?
Mm-hmm.
And without blinking, he said, because they're less expensive than an election. I just said, when he said it, I was like, it's much easier to send in, 30 people to go overthrow a government than it is to spend billions of dollars in
Mm-hmm.
order to, fund an election. And when you were talking about the elections,
Mm-hmm.
and then people staying in power, That was very interesting. But then also something that you talked about with the colonial structures that are in place. So one, the educational system is that.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a colonial
Yes, it's
educational system?
colonial. It's colonial. I went to school
Okay.
here, right from nurseries, primary school to JHS to university.
Hmm.
A lot of the content that they taught us had very little to do with our heroes, to do with our culture. It was not African-centered kind of education. It was an education to polish us and to become more like the white man. So when you set somebody through school, by the time that they have been through school for 15, 20 years, they look like you, they look like me, but their setting, their mental setting is more European. And for them, what is standardized or what they call standard has to be European, has to be the British. That is the kind of education. Now, you want me to come and change a lot of things in my community, but then you have given me an education that frowns on what I am and on who I am, on what I
So
stand for.
so to use words like um, developed world and third world and
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
now tell me this because were you forced to take an English name when you were born?
Okay. So when I was born, my first birth certificate I saw Obindakon there. And later I added Kwabena Obindakon. But I was not forced going to school to take English name because my father didn't want me to take English name.
Okay, so so it wasn't forced. It wasn't. They didn't make you take the English name.
No, not to me. I think
Not to
that
you.
it will be suggested to you. The teachers will say if you go to school, then take English name. So usually you will see somebody say, "My name is Kofi Badu, but my school name is Michael Gemfi." They will end up taking the father's surname and then they take some English name as the first name. That's when they go to school. But then at
When they
home,
go home,
they
to
have
mama,
they have another name.
so it'd be
That is
Kofi.
if you're lucky. But some people too, maybe you are going, they give you. And when you're going to church, it's the same, especially the Orthodox churches. They will give you the Catholic, for instance, if they want to baptize you, as I know it, they used to let you take some name from the Bible. So technically, somebody is trying to tell you that whatever you were born with, whatever you grew up in, is unpolished, is uncouth, is uncivilized, and they have to lift you to a certain. And so that is a whole structure designed to dehumanize us to a high level.
And
So
confused. I hear confusion in here too. Dehumanized, but also confusion because if you're going to school and your name is Michael, but then you
yes,
go home and your name is Kofi, and
yes,
you're trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with Kofi? And or maybe you don't even think that deep. It might not. You just might think, well, this is just how it is. When I went to
mm,
Cote d'Ivoire and I looked at the visa, the application for
yes,
the visa, it asked, well, what is your Christian name? And I said, well, what if somebody's not a Christian?
yeah,
What if they're Muslim? What if they're
yeah,
whatever,
yes,
Yoruba, whatever. What if they're not that particular thing? But you begin to see how these structures, because we talked about education, the educational system, the judicial system, and this is something that some folks didn't like me talking about.
we still they
I'm
still wear the weaves, and they will
yeah.
not have problem with it
I talked
because
about the wigs. I talked about the wigs, and they were like, "Well, there's nothing wrong with the wigs." And I think that I posted a picture of some people. I was an equal opportunity poster. I posted people from Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. And I guess I posted the wrong picture from Ghana because it was like, "Well, why did you post that picture of that person? Because that's so disrespectful." And I'm just saying, let's get past the emotion now. Let's get past our pride because really that's what was happening. Their pride was affected
yes,
because now they're feeling as though somebody's saying that they're stupid, and nobody was
yes,
saying that they're stupid. The question is because everybody's talking about we want to solve these problems, but I guess the question I had is how do we solve the problems if we are still embracing the very systems of oppression that
yes,
continue to rob and
yes,
steal? And then I was later informed, well, people don't see it like that, but I'm saying You just look at the budgets. You just look
No,
at where
it's
your resources are
obvious.
going. The lack of
Yes.
opportunities tell you
Yes.
where this is going. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm taking your time.
No,
I'll
no,
pass
no,
it
it's
back to
okay.
you. The judicial system and these wigs. What is this all about?
Yes, it's very, you see, when you want to destroy a people, you attack their culture, you attack their identity. And once you break that, then it's very easy for them to hold dearly to that which you introduce. For instance, if you introduce drugs to me and I become addicted, you don't need to introduce that drug to me. I will chase you for it, isn't it? Because now I'm there. So we have become addicted to that. And then we are complaining about the problems that we have. And what
Addicted to what? What are they addicted to? You said they're addicted to that.
The condition. Okay, let's say you introduce drugs to me. I didn't know how to use drugs. You introduced them to me. And now I'm addicted. I will sell everything I have to buy the drugs.
So what are the people addicted to now that you're referencing? What are they addicted to?
The conditioning, what they have become. Now the European is the standard. The European came, the picture they painted here is that they came here and they made themselves very innocent, godly, savior. That's what the picture, that's what they painted here. They came to help us. And that's why a lot of the times, anything that represents them, our people will look to you for help. It's from the top to the bottom. So that's why when they see you, they say, you are from America. You must be rich. You must be a good person. Come and help me. They may not be poor, but subconsciously, that is the structure they left here. So make the people depend on you. And then they told you that God looks like them. And if God looks like this man, how then do you fight with God? How then do you challenge the God? So subconsciously, we can deny that, we can fight that, but I can tell you, it really does not matter their profession, their level of education. Most of us have not studied this. Most of us have never questioned this. We just hold big government positions, big multinational positions, and we are asking questions. Why? How do we do well? Why do our people behave the way they behave? This is it. There's an identity confusion. There's identity crisis. We don't know whether we settle with the old one or we become white. How do we start to accept ourselves?
Something I'm gonna interject real quick because something you said that was really key. When I was in Kenya a few weeks ago, a young lady was doing a celebration. I guess she was finishing up her legal, I guess something to do with the law. Because when she got on the elevator, she had on one wig, which was, I guess, her regular wig that she was wearing. And then she had on top of that the white wig, the white European wig. And so someone on the elevator said, well, so congratulations. So why are you wearing like the white people's wig on top of your other wig that you already had on? Why is that? And so the young lady, she said, I don't know. She said, I don't know. And I think for a moment, she realized something.
Yes.
Why am I wearing this wig on top of this wig?
Yes.
Because it was like, and this is in Kenya, which is the system, obviously these judicial systems, everybody thinks that everybody's independent, everybody's different, there's minor modifications here and there, but when it gets to the core of that thing, it's like, but I guess my when you said that, it caused me to think because we do the same thing in America. That's what I'm saying. There's no, it seems like it's different, but we do the same thing in America. It's just, it's like, how you have a different flavor of the same kind of food. You might have one kind of burrito. You might have a chicken burrito, and then you have a beef burrito, but it's still a burrito. That's what I see the difference is, because we don't do the white wigs here. Well, hold on, let me think back now. We might have some colonial stuff going on. But you don't, I don't know. Let me go check into that. But let me check into that.
It's the same model. It's the same model they use on us.
People think that in America we don't, we do some of the same things. So your point is the conditioning.
It's the conditioning. And it's very tough to get yourself out. You can die without knowing it. And many
How
of
do
our
you get
people
yourself
have
out?
died,
How do you get out of it?
yes, without knowing it. And without knowing this, and without freeing yourself from this, you'll never live to the best of your ability as an African or as a Black person. Never.
But I've had people tell me that when I talked about the wigs and I talked about the fake white Jesus image, and they would say, well, we have more important issues than that. And I'm thinking to myself, because sometimes when you can see things from the outside, you're like, all of it's intertwined. It all goes back to identity. It all goes
Yes.
back to,
Yes.
you might have starvation and this going on and that going on. But when you go back to the core of it, it's like this system that's there, that's been
Yes.
circulating
Yes.
and educating and
Yes.
indoctrinating.
Yes.
It's been doing all of this, and it leads to this result of what we're talking about right now.
Yes, Jay. I mean, whoever, however I see myself is how I act. So the bottom line is how you see yourself. For instance, if I maybe somebody is very poor somewhere, and then all of a sudden somebody comes to tell you that, oh, do you know that your father's brother is the Asantehene? Do you know how much that information will hit that person? Just the awareness that, oh, I'm not poor. As a matter of fact, I come from a warrior family. We are rich. That information. So you cannot trivialize. You can only know a tree by the fruit, isn't it? So if the identity is in question, why do you doubt the fruit? Why are you asking the way we behave? Why are you asking that face the country? Why are you saying that the people are corrupt? Why are you saying that you can't depend on them? The problem is the identity. And the identity is something that somebody push on you, somebody train you to accept. So if you want to change their actions, then you have to go to the identity. And you can't change the identity until you change the information they have on them. So we can debate, we can fight, but so long as we are saying that the resource is not good and we want to change it, then let's look where and let's look again. Because for instance, a young woman who has finished law school with all these weaves, I mean, what is wrong with your hair? What's so wrong with your hair as an African woman? That we will even go to the extent of changing the skin, bleaching, as if what we have is ugly. And the person has been given education, but what kind of education were you giving? That you cannot even accept who you are. You are not comfortable with who you are. So how do I expect you, if you become the top legal person, to defend me? You are not even comfortable with what you have and who you are. You have to go to the white man's standard for you to accept yourself as a human being. So how can I depend on you? So you're trying to depend on leaders who themselves have not even discovered. They have not discovered themselves. Because you can only know that this is a great leader when he's defending his people, when he's going for the worth for his people. He puts his people first. Everywhere you go, those that we can call great are those that are defending and want the best for their people. And you cannot do that if you're weak. And you cannot be strong if your identity is in crisis. So it's the bottom. And we are saying that the school did that to us. The church is also the same. In Africa, the family is more or less a religious institution. The school is more or less a religious institution. And the church itself, or Islam, they're all religious. So 90%, 95% of our mind is religious. So if you have that religion wrong, everything else will be wrong. If somebody paints Jesus as white to you, that's damaging. And we are not questioning it. We say that, oh no, somebody created that. Somebody designed that. Somebody said that if you are going to Africa, let's tell them this is Jesus. He's like us. This is the devil. He's like you. So how do you match up when he is God? So everything that he brings, you can't question it because it's God, isn't it? So
how do you think this affects the people? How do you think this because we're dealing with systems of indoctrination, education, psychological influence. So we're going from the education that's saying you have a name Michael when you go to basically saying that you're bad. Now you have religious systems in essence that are saying that your indigenous side is problematic. So how do you
Yes.
think this affects people? Obviously, we understand identity. So
Yes.
we touched on identity. From a behavioral standpoint, what do you think this does to people?
You interviewed this gentleman who was on the street, and he said that he was taking care of his family, some of his
Yes.
brother, somebody was in the
Yes.
university, and he was the one responsible.
Yes.
But the man also told you that there are no opportunities in Ghana.
Yes.
Now, my point is, how can you take care of somebody in the university with the job that you're doing? You have no respect for that job because you think that you are in the sun. You're taking care of somebody in the university, but yet you trivialize this that you have. And you have done so much taking care of your family. Somebody will say it's nothing, but let's face it. I've been to China several times. The guy is in the sun selling. He's pulling the truck. And he's doing it without saying that there is no opportunity in China. As a matter of fact, if you condemn their government, they'll say, no, it's not true. China government is not like that. He's a good man. Now, bring the same thing to Ghana. So if you don't have the right setting in terms of thinking, if you have not been taught, even if you carry gold, you trivialize it. Because the programming was for you to degrade what you have, for you to undermine what you have. You were programmed to not even trust your own people. You were programmed to say that if anything is intelligent, it's not you. It's not you, or it's not anybody who looks like you. That was the conditioning. So the man is doing fantastically well, but he's being bombarded every day that he's selling on the street, and therefore there's no opportunity here. It's better to move to another country, become anything, than the dignity. You've been able to take your brother to university out of this same job that you don't value. It's not the job, it's the conditioning.
Woo! Woo!
It's not the job.
I mean,
So the moment I can shift his mind to say that what you're doing is dignity, that's how you start. Everybody starts like that. And if you just get some few tools, you can turn this thing that you have been doing to take care of your family into a good running business. It really does not matter how you start. It's the psyche you have on what you are doing. If I'm hungry and I'm poor and I have a poor man's mindset, if I'm eating gari, I'll say it's because I am poor. That's why I'm eating gari. Now, if I have money in my pocket and somebody sees me eating gari, I will not have any problem with it, even if the person calls me poor. The psyche. So the man can be holding gold if he doesn't see himself as worthy of anything. And if he doesn't see his country as anything, he will trivialize everything. So it's not so much selling on the street, but so much what he knows about what he's doing and his thought on his country and his leadership. So that is where the problem is.
Whew. You got me over here speechless. I'm sitting over here like, when you said it, the psyche, and I always try to draw the comparison with I relate because I relate from being from America and growing up in America, and I hear the same thing.
Yes.
The same thing. Oh, what are you doing with your life? Oh, you're waiting tables, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're not doing anything, but you have sent your children to college, you have
That's right.
taken care of everybody, you have done all of these different things with waiting tables, but somehow that's not a career. But it goes back without understanding that you have
You're
done
doing
it.
something significant.
Right, you have done it. You now
That's right.
but so many people are walking around, and like what happens in America, they go, so in other words, they'll do that, fund everybody else, and then they'll go incur massive debt just to go to school so they can feel like like they're educated. But when in reality is they have a different kind of education, knowing how to take care and raise a family, provide for people, and do all of that is. But when you talk about the psyche in Ghana, for some people who focus on the government, focus on the leaders, and say this is the problem, and this is, without understanding perhaps what they have in front of them. That was deep. That was deep. But I would love to get some feedback from folks, who are watching this, some of their thoughts on that. And one of the things I've learned since I've been in this space talking in Africa is that because I've been accused. This is what I've, being from America, I've been accused of a few things.
Okay.
I've been accused of not knowing what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I've been accused of having an obsession with colonization. I've been accused of, with that whole white wig thing and all of that. When I went down, I went in on the white wigs because I was like, well, this right here,
It's
this the
not
laughing
right.
stock. People look at this and outside. On the inside, it's like in your family, you got certain things that are cool. You might walk around the house in your underwear or something like that. That's what you do in your house. But if somebody comes to your front door and you show up, I'm just taking it to that level. You show up in your underwear, they'll be like, "What is going on?" You walk around the street in your underwear, they'll be like, "Something's wrong here." And that's what happens with the rest of the world when they see brown people wearing the colonizer's costume. It's like, has somebody sent the memo that this, but people are so defensive by it because they're thinking that somebody's saying they're stupid, and nobody's saying they're stupid. It's almost like saying, yo, your house is on fire. Your house is on fire. You might want to get out of that house. They're like, no, this house is fine. This house was given to me. There's nothing wrong with this house, and the house is burning down, and they can't see what's actually happening. And that's what happens when you have these judicial systems and these educational systems that are in place. Let's talk about, this is one right here. I did an interview recently with Kingsley.
Yes.
And Kingsley, he has some very interesting things. Kingsley's from Nigeria. He does a lot of our video editing. He's probably going to edit this video. He's going to love being shouted out again. But I met him for the first time in Nigeria when I went, and then we invited him to come over to Ghana because, they have this big thing about Nigerians don't like Ghanaians, Ghanaians don't like Nigerians, and all of this. I wanted him to be able to see for himself. And so he came and had a time of his life. You can watch the video and see it. But he talked about religion, and he had some very, very pointed things to say as far as how he felt religion, and in particular, he was referring to Christianity in its many forms in Nigeria, whether it's Catholicism or Protestantism, I think that's or whatever it might be. From your thoughts in Ghana, how do you feel religion has impacted the society?
Just as Kingsley said, and I love what he said. He had a lot to say. A very intelligent man, and very few instances you see, because Nigeria is highly religious, just as Ghana is highly religious, and we've been trained just to go to church. It's a major thing. If you don't go to church, people think that you're not a good person. But backtrack. A lot of this church thing is just about 50, 60 years ago. Major part of it, especially the independent churches. Much of the doctrines that we are seeing now, which have been very destructive, just about 40 years. I mean, worst case scenario, 50 years. All right, where somebody is saying that, come, let me pray for you, you become rich.
Oh, the prosperity doctrine.
That's a lie. Or somebody saying that everything is spiritual, and therefore everything you have to pray. They have power. So, for instance, if an accident happens on a major way, so when you pick a car, you're going from Accra to Kumasi, somebody will come there and pray and say that God will take care. But every time we still see accidents. So if these prayers work, why do we see the accidents? Truth is more powerful than a miracle. The truth that a person knows and practices, that one will save the person more than waiting for God to heal you. And that's why, as sad as it is, when they were keeping the slaves in the dungeon and they were telling them, they kept the chains on their hand, and they told them to look up to God to come and save them. That's the same gospel that they are teaching us. The one who is destroying you is rather telling you that look up to God to save you. And he's keeping his chain on you. This time around, the chain, they're keeping it on our mind. So a lot of the things that they are teaching our people, for instance, they keep them in church almost every day. How do you become a productive country when majority of the workforce is in church praying to God? For what? To come and bless them. Now, when they go, they also take the money. The little money that the people have, they take. So where is investment? Where is savings? Now, most of these churches have millions, and yet they are not investing in businesses. So they keep in all these monies that are not working. The money is not working, and they keep taking them from the people, And so you see the factors why unemployment will be high, because churches have a lot of money from the people who have gone to work. Most of these people don't have much, but they have them in numbers, in millions, saying that the most important thing that you have to do is for you to make sure that you work on your soul, salvation, make sure that when you die, you go to heaven. So the man's mind is not here. He's not thinking of innovation. He's not thinking of coming up with a new drug, a new tool, a new machine. No, the most important thing that they have told us is that when you die, you go to heaven. Then I ask myself, why do you continue to give birth? If the most important thing is for you to die, then and go to heaven, then why do you bring another person here? Because if there is nothing to do here, and the most important thing is focus on heaven, then why do you come? After all, in the Bible, it says that you'll be judged by the works, which means you must work. And yet these people don't do anything. Much of it is because the intellectual capacity of most of these people who started these churches during this period, I dare say, were not that much, I suppose. That's true. And most of them did not even see the lies in what the Europeans brought. So they are just continuing. They're just, following the same things, the same errors that they taught them.
Because now you said this is over the past 50 or 60 years, right?
Yes. Yes.
What were they doing prior to 50, 60 years ago? Because we're talking about prosperity gospel. So what were they doing prior to that?
Not much. Because you see, the Ghana, if I talk of Ghana, the Gold Coast, the main Gold Coast was the coastal belt. Now, Asante was not part of it up until 1900. Now, remember the British and the Portuguese and those people had been here, but up until 1900, they were not part of it. They were fighting them all the time. Now, the northern part they call it Northern Territory or something. They pushed them and put them together. So the influence of the Europeans on the typical African culture did not take so much effect until we started to go to school, so to say. It's not like they were here living with us and imposing a lot of things on us.
Okay, so when they started going to school,
that's right. That's where a lot of these things started to come.
How did Islam get its stronghold in the north? Because you have the Christianity, the Catholics, and the Protestants in the south. Then you have Islam in the north and Tamale in that region. So because you have these two religions, you see the same thing in Nigeria pretty much, where you see that Islam, Christianity mixed. So how did Islam get its foot in the door?
Islam came from the top, and they destroy a lot of our kingdoms, actually. As a matter of fact, Islam had been here for over 1,000 years, destroying and fighting and converting a lot of Africans. So when the Europeans came, Africa...
we should probably say the Arabs, probably a little bit better. Maybe the Arabs brought Islam, because I've had some people from some Muslims say, well, Islam didn't do it, So
but we defend. Okay, my friend, we even say the same thing. Yes, I can say that. But, just as we say Europeans and Christianity, I mean, they didn't.
So Arabs, I guess. So just to qualify,
okay,
who was doing the work? It was the Arabs.
Right. So I know when you talk about religion, people is very sensitive, and so people take. But then we are looking for solution, and I don't even have to be right. You just have to listen and say maybe it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, no problem. But they were coming from the north, and much of it, they were destroying a lot of things. They destroyed most of our kingdoms were destroyed by them. They actually converted a lot. Most of our chiefs even became, converted to the religion, so as to prevent their people from being killed and destroyed. It's just like the Europeans did. Most of our people, there were a lot of constant fights, just to preserve the people. But then the story is being told differently, So until you hear from them, so it's the same. So it was coming from the north. That's what I know, and it came through the sword most often.
So the Arabs bringing Islam through the sword. Interesting because it's a very similar story being told in Egypt, which is not very close, but it's interesting to see the similarities between Egypt and West Africa and East Africa. It's very interesting dynamics. Now, kind of circling back to this, because you do have Ghana is probably in the south, in the southern region, majority self-proclaimed Christians. They're
Yes.
building this big cathedral, this big Catholic
Mm,
cathedral
mm,
in downtown Accra. They have a huge cathedral in Cote d'Ivoire.
yeah.
Why do you think the Catholics find so much why in these so-called third world impoverished countries, why are the Catholics and the Mormons, because the Mormons are just about in every village, but why are they building this massive cathedral in downtown Accra, Ghana, in this so-called impoverished country?
Okay, the cathedral that they are building, they say is the national cathedral. It means the president said he made a promise to God that where if he gets there, the church people will come together and build a cathedral as a memorial, some monument for the country. I have my views on that. I think there are other things that we have to do before we do this. The status of the lives of our people. Many of them, we don't have to build this for God at this time. I think that there are a lot of things that we have to correct. A lot of things that we have to. What matters more than human lives? So you build
Well,
this significant
if
thing.
people have been conditioned if they've been conditioned to think otherwise and to
I agree, but then you see it's a class thinking. Some people think that they and their children deserve the best. The rest of us must serve them, and that is a problem. So the Catholic. It's one institution that we Africans must study. In as much as they may have done some good things, they have also done a lot of terrible things to us. For the last 1,700 years, if you study it, you will see much of the things that have gone on. A lot of them were used. I mean, they were fronting them because just as the time that they were moving our people, and enslaving them, we still had churches here. Why didn't they stop that? If they so care, the Methodists were here, the Presbyterians were here, the Catholics were here. They had been here. As a matter of fact, they came to condition the people not to fight back. Because forgive your enemy. If I come with the gospel, if I come with Christianity, why would you want to fight back?
Right.
Because then, honor somebody, respect them, forgive them, so that you go to heaven. There's a way that they condition it. And I went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic school. It's the things that will liberate Africa have been made sacred, which means that if you go to talk about it, now you become an enemy. It's controversial. And yet, if you leave it, your people are being destroyed. So you have to take the chance to say that, no, let's go after this. Because without that, the people will be in destruction forever.
An observation I made, and because I didn't plan this part of my life. I didn't, I just kind of showed up here. But an observation I made, because I didn't understand all of the Catholic role in the slave trade. Then I learned more about what they were doing with their own people in Ireland, and then what was going on in Canada. But then I started observing the Chinese, and the Chinese, many of them follow Buddha, and they do that, or don't do anything, or do whatever. But they seem to dominate wherever they go. It seems like people who are void of this doctrine of docility and this doctrine of being passive, this doctrine of being run over, slap me, turn the other cheek. Seems like the people who don't have that doctrine in their system are the ones who dominate.
That's right.
Those are the ones who the Chinese can go anywhere in the world and be fearless. And,
Yes.
and on many levels, they embody the scriptures that talk about that I did not give you a spirit of fear.
Yep.
And you see, because wherever I go, the Chinese are in America, they're in Jamaica, they're in Europe, they're everywhere. I've been in Africa, but I don't see people who have embraced these doctrines, these particular religious doctrines that we're talking about around the world dominating. And I'm talking about in particular people of African people, I should say. And when I say this, and I'm not saying this that it's everyone, because it's not everyone, because there are some people who have embraced this and who dominate. But as far as culture wide, I don't see people. It's like you come and everybody's like, hey, and it's like, but you go. I mean, I go to Arab countries and them jokers will let you know this is our spot and don't even think twice. Don't even, if this is our joint, and we're going to let you know. I flew into Qatar and I was like, yo, look at this. What is Qatar? What is, and I know it's stolen stuff, from Africa and other parts of the world and the oil that they have and all of that. But even when I come to America, the places that have the most poverty seem to have the most religious people. It's like
Yes.
it's something in it, and it's that doctrine, whatever that doctrine they use to get the people in control. That's what I've seen. That's just my observation, So I don't
No,
know.
but that's the truth. They send the Bible first. They send the religion first. Make them docile. Make them weak. Make them look up to God for help. It's a design. It's a weapon. We think that they just condition us to go to heaven, but it's part of the strategy they use. Without that, they will never have, conquered anything here. Without the religion, they will never have won.
Because people would have fought back. They would have fought
yes,
back and
of
said,
course.
"No, you ain't."
Yes. You meet any African who has not gone to school and does not go to any church or is not a Muslim. Look at them. Well, if you go to find any tribe that has never gone to any European school, any European church, or any Arabic, religion, look at that African way. You can't just fight them. I mean, you can't just take it from them. They fight back.
You know what? You remind me of, and I talked about this on one of my talks. You remind me of the Sentinelese people on the island. I guess it's the Sentinel Island near Sri Lanka, off the coast of India, and it's this remote tribe. They look like they probably migrated from Africa. So they look very. They got a whole lot of. They don't look Indian. They don't look. They, but they do not let people. They are protected by the Indian government because they are so aggressive. And they killed this so-called Christian missionary dude because he was going in there trying to, I guess he got half cocked with something, zealous, and it was all excited, but he was going to convert these people. And they were like, "Oh no!" And they even warned them. So I'm saying they even said, "We don't want you to come here." He clearly didn't read his own Bible. It said if you go to a town and the people don't want to receive your message, dust your feet off and keep on moving. This joker decides he's going to keep going back to try to convert these people, and they end up killing them. And they and I believe I believe the Indian government was like, "Look, it's illegal to go there." People got arrested because they assisted him in going there, and I believe they just left his body there because it's like, listen, what is going on? But my point is, to your point, the people who resist this type of training have a level of aggression, and they also have a level of identity, and they have a level of self-preservation that has not been tainted. And that's what I see, even when it comes to even when the Lebanese come in. I guess they might have depending on whatever their religion is, but they don't come in docile. When they come into America, they come into the hood. We call it the hood in America. They come into the hood with their carryouts, they'll steal a culture. They got a little spot here, the little hip hop joint. They steal a culture. They come in and they don't care. And they're like, "Hey, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What?" And that's how they flow. But I mean, even when I talk to many African Americans, it's like for many of us, we're afraid to visit Africa because that same system said that Africa's only good for missions trips. Africa's only good if you're doing an NGO or some sort of aid program. Don't know the history at all. Kind of like what you were talking about. The average, Ghanaian or the average African doesn't know the depth of the history. Well, the average African American doesn't know the depth of it either. And has on many levels the same mentality. The difference with us is that we're like, many of us are just arrogant with it. It's like we just straight arrogant. Ain't nothing like being arrogant and religious. It got a little bit of money. It's like it goes to another level.
But you see, Jay, if you see the Christian religion through where Africans or those who look like Africans are, you can see that this one is different from the way it is practiced anyway. Watch it well. The message, the problem is not the Christianity, because I think there are things in the Bible that can be used by anybody.
Absolutely.
And it's not like the Bible was written void of other cultures. A lot of the things in the Bible, my grandparents may not have gone to church, or my great-great-grandparents, but they practiced them. They knew them. So it doesn't become true because it's in a book, but these are timeless principles. And so it's good from that sense. But I think when somebody extracts something from it and start to interpret those things to you, to dominate you, and to make you not to fight back. That is where you see the same trend in anywhere that the Europeans. So the European kind of Christianity that they promulgated, there are a lot of questions with them. There are a lot of questions with them, because just about the time that they were promoting the same thing, they were taking human beings. And which other principle in the Bible is more powerful than love your neighbor as yourself? So how can you carry a religion that the embodiment of it is love, and yet kill, cut the woman's stomach and remove the child, indenture human being, slash them, hang them, rip them off, and you carry the Bible? What kind of Bible is that? So for me,
here's what a lot of people say today, and this is what I hear. Well, those weren't real Christians.
That's not true. That's not true. So then, so what did the real Christians do? Did they fight back?
I just asked that.
So if they were not the real Christians, no problem. But we even see it now. As an African, if I go through anywhere in the world, you can see how we are looked down upon. If I travel anywhere, I can see how the lines for the Africans, and I can see the lines and how the other people are treated. Who promoted this? It's the disdain that they promoted everywhere in the world.
I have a question for you. I have a question, and I asked this question. Nobody has been able to answer this question. No one. What did Christianity look like for the West African before the colonizer showed up with their version of Christianity?
Okay. What I know about the early part, the first 3 centuries of Christianity, Origin, Athanasius, they were all Africans or had African Nubian traces in them. These are guys who defended the principle of the Trinity. There were even early Roman, popes who had African heritage.
Okay.
Now, I think that even in the Bible, it went as far as Ethiopia, and this is not the current Ethiopia as it is, but it came to Africa. I don't seem to have a document to say that, okay, Ghana, as it is, in the first 5 centuries, Christianity was in the west of here. I don't know. I don't have any document with it. But what I know,
all right,
what I know is that our people serve God. That I know. And those are, yes, those who are thousands of years they've been serving God. Because you see, what I grew up with my grandparents, they didn't go to school.
Okay.
They didn't have any contact with the Europeans. But they were not killing themselves. They had principles. They were not just chasing people's wives.
What religion were they? What religion did they practice?
My grandfather had, they will have what we call konfo.
Okay.
The konfo means the priests.
Okay.
Okay. So the family will have their own priest who serves a certain god.
Okay. So this was not what we know as Christianity.
No, that is not Christianity.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
It's more of you still see them around. Yes, but they had their own principles. They had the way that they serve their God, and they were more decent. You could trust them.
So I guess that's the question, because because what has happened is, for many people, because in America they say, well, Christianity is the white man's religion. Some people say that, and then you'll have people say, well, no, it's not the white man's religion. In East Africa, they had the Coptic Church. But now when I went to East Africa and North Africa and I went to the Coptic churches, I was in for a surprise. I was in for a shock. And the shock was that everything that I saw in the Coptic churches, what the evidence that they still left behind, was European. And I was like, this is interesting. You would see in Ethiopia, you saw where people looked Ethiopian. When I went to Egypt and I saw, then you went from the Nubians, and I guess those in Kemet. So it's then you saw where when it changed, you went from all of this melanin, and then it went European.
Yeah.
And that was during the Coptic era. And then you had the Arabs, and obviously, that era had its ethnic vibe to it. Then you had and I guess the Coptics came with the Greco-Romans, because I've even had some people say there wasn't much difference between Catholicism and the Orthodox Coptics. So I guess my question is, and this is where I'm still trying to get the answer, and you were forthright to say, I'm trying to think of what a church looked like for the West African before the colonizer came, because I keep hearing Christianity is the white man's religion, and every time I hear that, I want to disprove it, but then I have no reference point to say, well, actually, Christianity looked like this before in West Africa. I'm still trying to find that piece of it, because I'm a contextual kind of person. And so, and then they'll interpret something or quote something to me using the colonizer's language.
Okay.
And using the colonizer's interpretations. So those are the question marks. And it's not just me. A lot of people have these questions because they spent so many years in the church, in different denominations in the church. And as they get deeper in their faith, they start asking these types of questions. And it just gets to a point where some people, it gets too deep for some people, and then they want to get rid of you, and they want you to shut up, and they want you to just, they want you to leave because you start asking questions that the bishop can't handle. Bishop not ready for those questions, or bishop might know the answer. Bishop might not want to tell you. So anyway, I threw that in there because I know the type of people who watch this channel. These are people who are serious about wanting to go to another level. So I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
Okay, so I know that the Christianity as we have it is not a creation of the European.
Okay.
I know I know people believe it's a creation of the European. I don't think that
so it's not the white man's religion.
No, I don't think that. I think they use it. They created a version of it and put their picture and their name on it and put their Jesus on it, and use it to dominate people. I think religion is a force that you can easily use to dominate somebody. That's why a lot of people, professor will go to a church which is led by somebody who cannot read, who cannot write, So in the name of religion, in the name of faith, the name of belief. So I don't think they created it per se. I think that they have used it to do a lot of, evil things more than good. I still believe that. But the Bible was not made, they could not have sat down and write all those things that, who were they? So there are a lot of things that make me believe that it's not something that they could just sit down and write. They may have put some things in it, I don't know. For instance, the translation from Aramaic to maybe Greek or to English, Latin, all those things may have some confusion somewhere. But
there were 6 Bibles before the King James Version. There were 6 Bibles that preceded. So with that, you have to wonder, well, what was wrong with those ones that came?
Okay. All right. So, but you see, the people who are fronting it now have done so many things that you can't trust them wholly. So that makes it difficult. There are a lot of things that they have said. For instance, if they told you don't go to Africa, they don't love you.
That's what they say.
And you come here and you see that it's not like that.
Right.
It's very far.
I got a whole lot of love in Ghana.
So there are so many things that we need to, ask questions. But I don't think Christianity, as it is, because the documents that I've read, no. And I think it's a force that we can use rightly to correct a lot of things in the minds of our people.
Okay.
If we give them the right tools and we teach the right things.
So what are the right tools that we need to give them so they can use Christianity?
So for instance, the principles of, let's say, truth.
Okay.
The principles of thinking. The principles of sowing and reaping.
Okay.
The ability to use the mind. You can, somewhere in Romans, you can transform a man's mind by renewing a man's life.
Be transformed
by renewing the mind. That's a core principle, which means that you can't change anybody's life without changing the mind. Paul said that you will prosper as your soul prospers. He didn't pray for them. He said that you will prosper if your soul, and the mind is part of the soul, isn't it? So these are key things that if we use them rightly and you take the image from it. What is wrong if you just use only the cross? Why do you have to put somebody on the cross? And why should that person be white? Why not just the cross? If you want anything to represent somebody. So some of those things, if you can take them out, and the fact that I want to become a Christian does not mean I have to take a name from Europeans, and you don't have to don't say that my culture, you don't have to demonize my culture or anything that represents me. I say that because you want me to become a Christian, because that's not it. And that's why Paul fought with the other disciples. He said that you have left Judaism to become a Christian. Why do you want this man to become a Jewish? Why? Because it's faith. Faith in Christ is the common denominator. So it really does not matter whether you're circumcised or not, because it's faith. So the same, you don't say that I have to change your name for you to become a Christian. You have to wear suit and tie for you to become a Christian. You must speak English before you become a Christian. Then it's no more Christianity. Then it's a tool that you want to use to dominate me. And so if you can get a lot of our people to think like that, then I don't think a Christianity or somebody practicing the African tradition is so much evil. I don't think so. I don't think that if you can go and bow to a statue somewhere in the name of Christianity, and somebody bows to another statue in the name of African traditional religion, you say that one is evil, but you are also bowing to another one, then it's conflicting to me, So I think that we can use it. I don't have problem with people being Islamic or Christian. What I have problem with is saying that I have to become European in order for me to become a Christian. Then that is problem for me. And for you to say that I don't have any power to connect with God unless you pray for me, then again, there's a problem. I can read the Bible myself and take decisions on my own unless you hear from God to tell me, then there's a problem. And why do you pack all these people every day and continue to collect money from them? You have become huge. You have built a lot of big temples and people don't have hospitals. They don't have any job. You are converting the factories into churches. No, that one is a problem. And then you are saying that we should pray to God for God to make us prosper and develop. How does that happen? Because development is not prayer. It's having the right tools for the people to do something with what they have. Why would God give us gold in the soil and you want us to pray to him to make us prosperous? I don't get that one. It's not prayer, it's the technology to extract the gold and use it for the benefit of your people. And who represents God more than the people? The one that you see, you can't serve. The God that you don't see, that you want to praise. No. So the measure of your faith, of your Christianity or your Islam, is how well you treat the one that you see. I was in prison. Did you visit me? That's what he said. I was naked. Did you clothe me? So for me, that kind of understanding, the expression of love, that for me is the religion that every one of us must practice. And so it really does not matter whether it comes with the name of Christianity or it comes with another name. Do you love your brother? And would you be patient with your brother? Would you share the knowledge that will heal him or help him? Would you lift him up? Those things are key to me. And if anybody represents that, then they will not take advantage of the other person. Then you don't even have to fight corruption, because I think of you more than myself. So why would I want to cheat you?
Whew. Oh man, I love these conversations, and I can't wait to get back to Accra, because I know that I already know this is going to be one of those firestorm. I know when I have the interviews, this is like when they're happening. I know I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be that one. And I say that because what I hope that these conversations do is provoke people to start thinking. It's when people try to tell me, I oftentimes don't share my background in the church world intentionally, because I think it would be an unfair, I don't want to say advantage or disadvantage, I'm not sure, but I'm very well versed in that world, probably more versed than what anybody would imagine. And so I've been on the inside. I've been, and one day I'll share. One day I will share exactly how deep into it I was in, but I had to get out of the system of it, because I saw the system was problematic, and I saw the way that it affected people, and and I knew better,
Yes.
and sometimes the more you get into the scriptures, the more clearly you can see how
Hmm.
flawed the system is. Sometimes you can
That's
look and say,
right.
"Oh, wait a minute, this system,
Yes.
this is we're not even doing what this.
Mm.
We have this book, but we're not even
Yes.
doing what it says." And
We are
and
not
so
reading.
not even reading, not even,
No.
or even the people who are reading are misinterpreting it,
Hmm.
or they know. And I was in so many different churches, or around so many different churches, that I heard so many different interpretations of the same scripture. And depending on where I might have been in that point in time of my life, it might have resonated with me and felt good.
Hmm.
So I get it. Um but I do see where the bondage comes in, uh in this area. And of course, with the education, with the politics, with the judicial system, with all of these different systems. And so it has nothing to do with being American. This is
Hmm.
just a human being looking and saying something's not right, because I see the same problem, the same global behaviors,
Yes.
whether I'm in America, whether I'm in Kenya, whether I'm in Egypt, whether I'm in Ghana or Nigeria or South Africa. That was a little different in South Africa. It was a little different in South Africa. That was encouraging. It was a little
Okay.
different in South Africa. I didn't see white Jesus all over the place in South Africa. Not
Okay.
that not that he wasn't there. I just didn't happen to see him. I saw white Jesus in Egypt. I saw him in
Uh-huh.
Ethiopia. I saw him in Kenya. I saw him in Tanzania. I saw him in Sierra Leone. I saw him in Ghana. I saw him in Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, the only place I see him in America. Uh,
Mm.
to this day in black churches, I still see the white Jesus.
Wow.
But I did not see him in South Africa, and I was looking for him. But anyway, my point is that I hope it inspires people to think about the results of what they're doing, because it's even deeper than the money. Because somebody said, "Well, I gave to the preacher
Hmm.
and I got a blessing."
Mm.
And I think to myself, I said, "What about the person who does not even talk to the preacher, who does not even know the preacher, but has 20 times the money of the preacher and everybody in the congregation?"
That's right.
I was like, "What about that person?"
Yes. Yes.
And so I've seen it. I've seen. I'm not even gonna get it. I'll save it for when I do my.
But you
I'm just
see,
saying. I've seen so much that it would rock people's world when I
mm,
do share it, because I used to say I wouldn't share it, but I'm going to, because the bondage, if you will,
mm,
that I see across the world, so much of the bondage comes from that
yeah,
place of the religion.
the
And
beliefs. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and how
Yes.
people treat one another, and how people flow, and
Yes.
how people show up in the world. And it's just so many different things. And I remember when I was entrenched in it, I'm telling you, I was in it deep. I was in that thing deep, and I thought I was free. I'm trying to tell you, I was in that thing deep. Now I was in it deep, 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 and I thought I was free.
Mm,
I thought I was free, and it was when I got out of that system and I could look back and I could see all the different games that were played from place to place to place, and the exploitations, and how people would exploit traumas, and how
yes.
people would exploit the lack of knowing even what the system is.
Hmm.
How they would target. I remember going to different conferences, and they would talk about how you would, how to grow your ministry, and you target people during transition. So if they're moving to the city, or if they're going through a divorce, or if they're going through some sort of tragedy, you now target that person and you shower them with this attention. And now they're likely to come back, and how you get them in the system of repetitive behaviors, and you get them, you begin the process of
So this is a
indoctrination.
this is a scheme.
It's a scheme. It's a,
It's
it's,
a
it's
scheme.
it, now a lot of people are going to dispute that, but I would have disputed it when I was in it, because there
Yeah.
were there were some results I was getting from it. And so
Hmm.
I would have never. I would have. See, you got me. I went up an octave there. I said scheme. You got me over here going up an octave. But it's like when I was in it, I didn't know what was happening. I was just happy to be around people who said they loved me. And this was when I was in my early 20s. I was
Mm,
excited to be in that environment. the music, the people, the affirmations, a lot of soul needs were being met. So things that I hadn't heard from dysfunctional aspects of my life. And so
Mm.
it was like this family or these people became like family that I never had
Yeah.
before.
Mm.
And so what it did was as it indoctrinated me, it now it became
An
an
addiction.
emotional tie.
Yeah.
And so you get into it so deep that
Yes.
when it was time for me to be, it was also a very spiritually and psychologically abusive environment because the leader understood the psychology and the psyche of the people that he was leading. A lot of very broken people, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people who were not religious. So this is like a blank template that you can create your own kind of thing. Or he would get people who were tired of the traditional systems and churches and
Mm.
all of that.
Mm.
And so people would come into this and it was fun, upbeat, hype. This is what was going on. Everybody was, so it was kind of catering to that vibe. And I was on the inside of that. I was one of the people who was responsible for promoting this out to the masses. And I would use my creativity and my talent, and my marketing ability to promote this. And so part of me, this I had to go through, as you replay it, I had to go through, feeling some kind of way about bringing people into this and then looking at the end result. Many of these people, by the time they had their time in this particular so called ministry, they were so spiritually damaged that
So you
not
didn't
only
know whether you had helped them or not.
oh no, I knew there was no help. I mean, there were certain things that they learned from it, and it was some
Mm-hmm.
good practical stuff in there. That's what made it really tricky because you would get some good
Mm.
practical stuff, but then there was
Yes.
this other undercurrent that was happening. And I would see people, I watched, just marriages fall apart. I watched people go through, and this is by the time I was getting done with it. I was like, okay, now this is something's not right about this because what's going on up in here
It's not
can't
right.
yeah, I don't
Yes.
even see this in the Bible. What are you doing
Yes.
here? By the time I left, it was I left a very promising career to become, to go full time with this thing. I believed in it that much
Mm-hmm.
where, so I
You were to leave
understand.
everything to join.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh, let me go and I'm leaving my career to go work full time with this just supposed to be so-called ministry. And then you get on the inside and it didn't happen instantly. It was like little by little, and you began to
Yeah,
see
they are
how
in layers.
you saw the layers of it, and I needed it to help me grow up. If anything, I needed it to help me become stronger as a man. I needed to go when I say this meaning, I needed to go through the break away
Mm-hmm.
from it and everything that happened afterwards
Okay.
and all of the shunning, the ostracism, the criticism, everything that happened with that, I needed that to happen in order for me to stand up and say, you know what, God got my back. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all,
Mm.
and I had to get a little hood with it internally. I don't care what y'all blank blank say about me, because I'm gonna do the blank blank thing. I don't care. Y'all that's all right. Y'all know
but
who y'all blanking with up in
but
here.
what
You know,
did
so
you where did the strength come from?
I firmly believe, because at that point, what I understood was the journey that I'd already been on. I'd already led like a crazy life. I talk about it in my book, Followers Following. And at that point, for real, it was just me and God at that point. Because
Okay.
there was no, I didn't, and it wasn't a matter of, I couldn't pull on, I need to go talk to this person. Because even like I would talk to people occasionally, but they didn't understand the depth of what I was going through. They didn't
Mm.
understand the severe psychological and spiritual trauma because of being so vested. And I was always skeptical of church. But when that happened, it was almost like I knew, it was almost like God was showing me that this system right here, and it wasn't just that one system, but I was able to see other systems
Mm.
because of the type of work that I did,
Mm-hmm.
started showing me really what was going on. And then what it forced me to do was to start reading the scriptures more. The only way I really got through that time was to read the scriptures and try to understand, because I said, this can't be right. This can't be, meaning what happened here? God cannot sanction this. Can't be what he sanctioned. If
Mm.
this is his word, he cannot sanction this right here to the abuse of his people, to the stuff that I saw. I've been cussed out by preachers. Almost got in a fight with one because they couldn't control. Because their whole thing was to let me try to control you, and I'm just not one.
Yes.
You might, if you fool me in my mind, that's the only
Mm-hmm.
way you want to do it. But you're not just going to come up and bully me and
Mm.
control me. And
Mm.
it wasn't, and so once I figured out what their game was, that's what I said. It turned into a hood situation. I like, oh, y'all talking that church talk, but y'all got some hood stuff going on. So let's take it to the streets, And so, but it was
Wow.
like by the time it took me years to heal from that, to even get to a point of being able to talk about it in a way that that would be beneficial to someone, because it was so traumatic. And I didn't, and you never think about that in church
As
and
trauma.
religion.
No.
You
No. You don't.
never think about how it impacts how you
You don't.
respond in life. You never, you just, you're thinking you're going to church with your Bible, you're excited to be reading about the Lord, and now whatever issues you're dealing with, you're really going to get a sense of relief. And then you get in there and you find out these people playing with your mind,
Mm.
and you're just like, what? So,
But
so
you see,
go ahead.
they have destroyed a lot of lives. And if you see it in West Africa, it's the same. They capture you when you're very young, right from secondary school. Because remember, they have groomed you from home as to be a Christian. And I mean, that's it. And so when you go to secondary school, you're almost there, and they capture you. So most of the young men and women from the university, all they do is religion. And so, and I mean, those are the people who will come and tell you that what you're saying is not true, because that's all that they have known. Some of them have even been told, don't read any other book apart from your pastor's book.
That's what they say. They tell them that in America too. They say the same thing. They say
Don't go to any church apart from this particular church. Dress this way.
Yes.
The only friends you have are these people. If you want to listen to any preacher, these are the recommendations. And so when you talk about divorce, of course, these things will show. There will be a lot of divorce. There will be a lot of frustration in the youth. But because some of them were captured so young in their youth, they don't know any other life.
Right.
So they will only stay with you because, they don't know what to do until somebody else gives them another form of information. And so they have destroyed a lot of things. And now it's reacting. I have some friends who have actually become angry and walk off a lot of these churches, because they have seen that, no, they have wasted their youth with them and they don't know anything.
Wow.
They are in their 40s, they are in their maybe early 40s or late 40s, and they don't know any other life. They don't have any other quality information. All the argument they can build with is the one that they gave them. And they have no investment, they have no exposure. All that they know is go and preach to people, send them to heaven. And so they have destroyed a lot of lives. And it's very common in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Kenya, it's all over. And I think one of the challenges of Africa doing well is being able to get a certain percentage of these people, this youth, to think rightly. And you can't go against any other force, not the political force, but this religious force. Because if you leave it, all these people, we can't use them to build our countries. And that's so certain. Because you have lawyers, doctors, engineers, they think with the prism of religion. So they can see the facts, but they are telling you, but my pastor said. The facts are there. So the only authority they trust is the one from their pastor. And I think if you reduce the human being to that level, you have destroyed them. So sometimes it's even more dangerous than what the colonizers did.
Right. You're right. It goes even, it's like a recolonization. It's like colonizing and you get recolonized into the religion, and then that just takes you to another low, but you believe you're high.
Yes.
And you're just going with this thing, and people are, I see it, man. I see it. I think it grieves me now when I see it, because having been there, I used to be embarrassed about it. But I recognize that was just my pride, the embarrassment aspect of it, because
Mm.
no grown man wants to be like, man, I was caught up in some foolishness. Nobody, no grown man or woman or anybody was. I was caught up in some foolishness.
Yeah.
And then
Mm.
say I was into the foolishness deep. I was there. But
Yes.
sometimes what happens in life, you go through certain things to help people get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like now
Mm-hmm.
when I do all my travels all around the world, it's really in essence showing people that there's life after that stuff.
That's
There's
right.
another world out here.
Yes.
When I come back, I was having conversations with people and they're talking, because in America, there's a language, there's a mindset that Africa needs us. So like you were saying, the people in Africa believe that they need the West and they need white
Mm.
people to come save them. There's this thing that they preach to us, and they come and they colonize and they set up the little churches and stuff. They need the gospel over there. I'm saying they got the same stuff over there. What you peddling, they got that over there already. They don't need you to go take this garbage over there and peddle this to these people. They
Which
got it work.
gospel?
They got it
Which gospel?
already. Right, which
Which...
gospel? That's what the jive gospel, the joke
Yeah.
colonized, crazy gospel. Now,
Yes.
I'm looking at them and I'm saying to myself, leave that over here.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, don't take that to nobody. They don't need this. But
Oh.
but the thing that they're thinking they're doing, because they've conditioned us to think,
You have to go help them.
go help them people. They're starving.
Yes.
I come to Ghana and I see food everywhere. I'm like, there's food on every corner. I'm like, well, they need shoes. I'm looking, I said they got the living Walmart. I'm going out to Winneba. I'm going out there. I go to Kumasi. I'm in Tamale. I'm seeing shoes and clothes and anything you need. The Chinese have imported it and got everything you need right there. And so but to help, but even when people see me going, so are you going over there to help the people? And not that help isn't needed. Not, let me say this to be fair, not that help isn't needed, but not the type of help that what we're talking about. What the type of help that is needed is what you're talking about and what Kingsley was talking about. Need to have more people who can teach the young people
That's
how
right.
to have practical living steps
That's
and,
right.
and to help them understand all of the systems that are around them, so that as they grow up, they understand political structures. They
That's right.
understand why the judges are wearing the white wigs and these supposed to be smart, intelligent people. And they understand, well, they're smart and intelligent people, but they've been psychologically conditioned to behave and think a particular way. That so the solutions that I'm hearing in in these conversations, I believe is going to be the catalyst, or the conversations are going to be catalysts to lead to more solutions, because so many people are looking or again are asleep. A lot of people stay asleep when the alarm goes off, but then some people wake up, and I believe that's what's happening.
Okay.
That's why we connected, because somehow you heard something I said, and y'all, hey, what's like? Wait a minute.
But that's true, because I've had so many people go to my channel, and they said that the things I'm listening now, I'm becoming conscious. I mean, grown-ups, some live in Ghana, some live outside Ghana. Whether it's about finance, whether it's even about setting your own goals and going after your dreams, not believing that if something is hard in your life, it means it's the devil. Being able to think rightly, getting the right facts in terms of history, thinking systematically, structuring your life. Those basic tools that every human being must use, that we have rather put religion. We have put, instead of those things, we have replaced those with religion and God. That God will do these things for us. And so the moment you get a man to believe in himself, you have healed the man. If I become confident that I can build my life and take my life from now to the next, because all these things were designed to take that dignity from us, that self-belief, that self-belief that I have what it takes to build my life.
But they tell you in church, you can't believe in yourself. Don't put no confidence in the flesh. And anything you do, you better, the Lord done said, the Lord, he didn't say, you better not take no credit for nothing.
For it.
Lord done it. I'm just saying, this is what they tell you. So the minute you start believing in yourself, oh no, now you put your head down, oh no, I can't take no credit for nothing. And I'm just going to say in the Lord, and God, like, get up and walk.
That's right.
I mean, even if
Yes.
you go back to the man at the pool of Bethesda who was already healed,
Yes. Get up and
get up and
walk.
walk. Yeah, he had to use his own effort and ability
Yes.
with the strength, this God-given strength, to get up and walk. But
Yeah.
somehow, no, you can't do nothing.
There's a message for the maid,
Mhm.
and there's a message for the master. They have preached the maid message to our people. That's why they can't build with it. If you have taught people and they can't build, you have taught them to be slaves. And that's all over. That's what they have done to us. You know, so that's why the young man does not believe in his country anymore. Because if you've been taught, if you've been educated rightly, you will see that you believe in yourself and you believe in your country. Because that's what they design. Don't believe in yourself, don't believe in your people, don't believe in your leadership. That's it. The whole design is take these things from you. Now, if the person has had different education, you see that he believes in himself, he believes in his country. And the moment those two connect, they see opportunity. The world becomes a different thing. I mean, if the things that we do in Ghana, if we didn't believe in ourselves, if you didn't believe in the opportunities in our country, we will never see them. You know? So there's no, you can't talk me out to say that, go on. No, we didn't have to start with anything. We just believed that we could do something. And we had no option but to focus until it succeeds. We are not giving up. You know? And when everybody else is focusing on all the bad things, you say, no. There are so many good things here. I can buy land, cocoa land, or farmland in any village somewhere. Go to England if you can buy land and plant cocoa. These are the opportunities that you have. You can easily start any business anywhere, you know? So there are opportunities. There's just the same way that you see difficulty, there are a lot of opportunities depending on what you have grown yourself to, the information that you have access to, and the ones that you have chosen to believe, you know? So now we have a generation.
Half full or half empty.
Say it again.
Half full, yes. Half full or half empty.
Yes. So when you see a young man praising England, praising America, saying that the system work there, you know, those systems work. In Ghana, nothing works. That young man needs another information. Because the thing is, from the day you were born, you went to school, how many topics were you intentionally taught? If you have not been intentionally taught, you don't know the topic. And most people have college certificates thinking they've been taught. And most of Africans have not been taught Africa. They were born here, but they don't know Africa. And so the thing that will come out of his mouth is what? It's the negative. Because he's not been taught to be an African or to be in Africa. They don't know. So just as the mouth will open because it doesn't matter what is coming out of it, you know, it will open. And you see that the man is like you talking to a medical doctor. He speaks English, you understand. But if you're a medical doctor and he's a medical doctor, the language, even though it's English, is different.
Yeah.
Because he's been taught the fundamentals. And so a lot of our people have not been taught the fundamentals in anything. Okay, and that's why you see that he will see you and say, Jay, you know, it's very difficult. I can't do anything here. And that's his reality, is difficult, but he's not been taught. The moment he's taught, you see that he can pick this and build it. You know, so it's more of the intentionality of the teachings. And so if the person can pick the models, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's it. It's like you learning the keyboard. If somebody teaches you, these are the keys. This
is the master teaches you. These are the chords right here.
Then it's different from me going to see a keyboard and trying to find it myself without any teacher. No reference, nothing. It will be very difficult for me to discover all those things. But if somebody teaches me that these are the models, it's very easy for me to build from there. And so most of our people have not been taught. And that's why it's difficult for them to build from where they are, whether it's their finances, whether it's the marriage, whether it's the company, or even building a country. A lot of our presidents were not taught how to build a country.
Well, let me say this: we have this, anybody who's hung with this one, but this is one of those ones you got to hang with. This is a conversation I believe that warrants it to just run. And again, we appreciate any comments and any thoughts, you know, because again, we're here to uplift, and sometimes the only way that you can correct the situation is to address a situation. And there's so many thoughts and philosophies on the solutions, but I wanted to be able to have this follow-up conversation with Kwabena Darko, and we're gonna wrap it up now. But please tell everybody how they can find your YouTube channel, where they can find you on social media. Tell us about your books, everything. Give us the rundown.
Oh, okay, Jay, thank you. So my YouTube channel is Obendako. Obendako, you see my face and my wife's face, Marie. I got to know you through her, you know. So
What's up, Marie?
And I have books. I have 3 books. So there's Perspective, how to develop the mindset to start and build your own business. There's Streamline, how to teach yourself money. It's personal financial education. And there is Resilience, how to build courage and strength to build business as an entrepreneur. And I also have a website. I have some few courses there as well, obendako.com. You know, so these are some of the things that we do. And we talk on radio. If you're in Ghana, you hear us on Peace FM with my friend Odia Inkai a lot of the times, talking about business and some of these things. Okay. You know, these things that people hardly talk about. It cannot.
So you're on Peace FM? You're on Peace FM?
Yes, a lot of the time. Since last year and this year, and some few other TV stations, you know, we share, because I think this is where the hope is. The hope is not just a government working, but waking the people up. And if we have many of our people up, the government will work. Because
that's it.
You know, if you are fighting and I'm also fighting, they talk about China. If you wake up, I wake up, and we see that this is our common heritage. Jay, if I walk with you to any country, they will not know whether you are from Ghana or I'm from anywhere, you know?
Right,
it's just the same. So the world treats us basically just the same until they see your passport.
Right.
You know, and so, and one way or the other, the heritage, you're part of it. It's not just, you know, your grandfather could have been my great-great-grandfather as well.
Right. That's right.
So it's not just that you lost something. We also lost. That's you know, right. And so a way of us coming together and working together, wherever we are, showing interest in our continent is key, because we are treated as one people anyway. We are just the ones trying to separate ourselves, but we are, you know. Well, and the West in Ghana is not only for Ghanaians; it's for everybody.
Right. Right. Well, China's there. China's found it, and the U.S. has found it.
And now we have to make sure that
Russians have found it.
We put some impediments in front of them, you know, to say that no, you can't take everything. We have to.
Yeah.
We can't sit back and say let them take everything. No.
No. And that's why conversations like this are so important. And that's one of the reasons why I believe channels like this are so important, because we can have these types of discussions that broaden the mind and open the mind and encourage the conversations to continue to happen. So Kwabena, man, thank you again for joining me. We have to do this. I think this is going to be a recurring topic, and then we'll talk some more about starting businesses and how to do, you know, some more practical steps so for people, and then we can drive them to your courses